I cannot deny your suspicions. It's true that this city once had its own army and went through a long period of territorial expansion. Our history even includes a decade-long period of military dictatorship. We leveraged our hypercube advantage to wage wars, invade the Outlands, exploit satellite towns, plunder resources, and even commit countless atrocities. As the dominant city-state, this city crushed every Outland alliance. The reach of its former military conquests far surpassed even what Nirvana achieves today. It truly was an era defined by fanaticism and extremism, marked by foreign wars and domestic oppression. It's entirely plausible that during the time, someone secretly sanctioned the development of prohibited weapons, later dispersing them to distant lands through war, with one eventually finding its way into Jasmine's hands. All these mistakes were corrected after the Dis-C explosion. Confronted with BR-000, Edge scientists worked tirelessly to negotiate a resolution, eventually convincing the old military regime to shift their focus from warfare to catastrophe response. The Dis Corps was then restructured into the city-state's anti-mania framework, marking the birth of the FAC. Afterward, we gradually scaled back our expansionist policies, eased tensions among city-states, and dedicated ourselves to reuniting humanity against shared apocalyptic threats. In NF-106, Dis City first proposed a peace initiative at the Great Expo. Despite facing numerous setbacks, we ultimately secured a comprehensive ceasefire agreement with all city-states by NF-107. That chapter of our history is now behind us. Today, Dis City is committed to peace. We urge everyone to let go of past grievances and mistrust, so that together, we may heal these wounds and look toward the future. Even with that said, I know you might not entirely agree, Chief. Jasmine's situation is undoubtedly deserving of sympathy, and your principles are always unwavering. In the few short years since your awakening, you've seen too much darkness to fully endorse many of the city-state's actions. In that case, allow me to offer my perspective in defense of my homeland. The root of all conflict between Dis City and the Outlands has always been Hypercube, and the first and most devastated victim wasn't any distant land, but Dis City itself. The long-running city-state wars originated with Dis City's anti-colonial movement. The Independence War from NF-60s to NF-80s remains the longest and most devastating conflict ever fought by a single city-state. In NF-24, the leading city-states established Dis City along the shores of the Dis-C as a semi-colonial production zone for hypercubes. Its sole purpose was to extract and export hypercubes to the colonial powers that funded its operations. The people of Dis City endured the world's most concentrated apocalypse of ashes along the Dis-C. Yet, the hypercubes they mined could not be used for their own protection. Instead, it was shipped endlessly to the Outlands, sold at rock-bottom prices. Industrial goods, capital, food, and water were all strictly regulated. Even after years of painstaking savings, colonial powers could easily strip away the people's wealth with minor adjustments to the prices of essential resources. Yes, a stark contrast to what we see today. Back then, Dis City was merely a fledgling mining city, barely surviving on the fringes of a disaster zone. Meanwhile, the colonial powers funding its development had inherited the majority of pre-Nightfall wealth, resources, and heavy weaponry. Dis City's earliest upper class all originated from prominent powers in the metropoles, remaining loyal to their homeland rather than their place of residence. Those who challenged this system faced brutal suppression. Yet, despite years of oppression, the people of Dis City refused to submit, and resistance began to take shape. Then, in the NF-60s, when Dis City's Nirvana port sought autonomous trading rights, the metropoles obliterated it with nuclear weapons. The radiation contamination devastated what was then the most vital independent shipping route, killing at least 150,000 people, a death toll surpassing any subsequent Black Ring outbreak. This catastrophe became the catalyst for all-out war. The former military forces mutinied and declared war against the Metropolitan Coalition. After a prolonged and devastating conflict, one that inflicted heavy casualties and exhausted the city-state's accumulated wealth, they succeeded in expelling the colonizers from Dis City and seizing control of the hypercubes. They then spent many more years reclaiming their rightful resource cities and satellite towns, ultimately achieving full independence from colonial rule. During this brutal struggle, the former military, and eventually the entire Dis City, grew increasingly radicalized. In time, they strayed down a dark path. I have to admit, trying to justify it like that feels quite pathetic. Chief, Paradisos instructed me to explain these things to you, probably in preparation for more important assignments ahead. I believe you'll soon be granted broader authority and intelligence access to manage more complex missions. Naturally, you'll develop your own perspective on these matters. I cannot and would not try to sway your judgment. But there's one point I think you'll agree on. If a city-state holds the only hypercube mine, but lacks the strength and resolve to defend itself, its destruction is inevitable, regardless of alliances, enmities, or even notions of justice. This is simply an objective certainty.
I'm deeply moved to learn that so many have inquired about Jasmine's well-being. Thanks to the tireless work of Dis City's anti-mania specialists, we're making steady progress in identifying the root cause of her condition. Jasmine is a civilian from a distant land who was caught in the throes of prolonged conflict and exposed to a forbidden weapon. Her body and mind have been completely shattered. Regrettably, there is no possibility of recovery at this stage. She is a tragic casualty of war, and a poignant reminder that we must not relive the failures of history. Through sustained joint efforts, Dis City and Frasier have dismantled long-standing divides, forging unprecedented collaboration. Moving forward, we are committed to deepening our partnership in economics, technology, and security intelligence.
I couldn't sleep. Frasier's acting way too eager. That guy gifted you a sinner, then suddenly brought up the FAC and the past war? He's definitely up to something. But I know so little about Outlanders. Even my father rarely mentioned it in front of me. I don't really understand how actual Outlanders think. No. Chief? Is that you? Running won't help. I can still smell you. Are you really that scared to face me? You really are a good person.